You are seeing a massive move to the left by the Democratic Party. You really are. Look, Hillary will be their nominee, but their new leader, it won't be Bernie. It'll be Elizabeth Warren. And it's going to go much more to the left. Somebody like me, who's more of a centrist left, probably will not fit all that comfortably into the Democratic Party of the next few years. There's definitely a change going on.
Rick Unger on the hard line last night talking about the future for Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Party, which a lot of Republicans would prefer not to think about. However, let's get to it this way. Start here. It's the home stretch for Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders already heading back to Vermont, beginning to think about who will shovel his walk come the first winter months. And anybody who actually thought for a brief shining moment he had any chance of getting keys to the executive washroom had to be overdosing on maple syrup and something else. However, to think that Sanders will not be a force in Philadelphia is perhaps the greater folly, and that goes for Democrats and Republicans. This is where the midweek version of the political animal begins, where only reality is spoken about the faux burn certain media types have been feeling for months. She is senior contributor at the Federalist, D.C. McAllister. He is the Democratic media strategist at Cate Communications, Franco Ripple. Thanks for joining us. Franco, I begin with you. Let's just end it right here, shall we? Bernie Sanders is toast. He's not going to be president of the United States. He can scream, holler, jump up and down all he wants. And anybody who thought that Bernie Sanders was going to be enough to defeat the Hillary Clinton machine was foolish. Agree.
Agree. And look, to quote my Democratic strategist friend Eric Jotkoff here in Florida, the voters have spoken. They've made it clear on the Democratic side, and I eventually believe the American side, that Hillary Clinton is the most qualified Democrat to be president. And I think it's time, I understand Bernie Sanders is new to the Democratic Party after a career as an independent. But I think it's time for him as a member of this party to start thinking about what's best for our electoral chances this fall and wrap things up. And it's time for the party to unify behind. I disagree with Rick Unger, by the way. There's lots of room for centrists and moderates like Charlie Crist in the Democratic Party. And I think you're going to see them coming together behind one right now in Hillary Clinton.
Oh, please, Charlie Crist and the mess he left behind in Florida, young man. We got to talk to about a few million people in Florida who couldn't wait to ride this guy out of town as fast as they possibly could. And by the way, is he a Democrat? Is he a Republican? Is he an independent? Is he a believer in the force? We haven't quite figured that out yet. D.C., let me come to you right now and talk about Bernie here in this, because it seems very obvious. Bernie Sanders wants to get to the convention. He is going to be a force. He is going to be part of the platform here that will then go up against the Republicans come November. How concerned should the Republicans then be if they have somebody like Bernie who's got that youth vote going for him, even though they don't really register all the time to vote? But if he gets in there and changes things, is it going to be even tougher?
He'll have an influence, definitely. I mean, and he's also still not going to give up the fight for the White House. He says he's going to go in there and try to sway some super delegates in his direction. So that's going to be really interesting, because I don't know if there's going to be much party unity if he's doing that at the convention. And it could cause a platform to develop that's not really in his favor, and then you're going to have people angry. So you might have a future of more division within the Democratic Party, and that would make a weak Hillary Clinton candidate.
Here's something else to consider, D.C. I want to start with you. Independent voters. Of course, they couldn't vote in the New York primary, and there's a lot of places around the country in primaries where they can't vote now. Where do the independents go, D.C., come November?
Some of them might be going for Donald Trump. Those who aren't offended by his bombast are indicating that they'll go in his direction. Some will be staying home because they aren't represented if Bernie Sanders isn't in the fight. So that's going to be very interesting, who's actually going to turn out to vote in this election. I think it's going to be more about who stays home than who shows up.
Let's do this then, because Franco, people always say you can't win the presidency unless you get independents, and maybe you get some people to cross party lines here. But looking at all the people that Donald Trump has brought out to vote this year, the great support that he has, the Republican fight, everybody's involved. On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders has got people energized from the left. Are we really going to need or care about the independent vote this year?
I think so. But I mean, I think elections are becoming more, you always care about independence, but elections for the last several cycles, presidential cycles, have really been base elections. It's become, since probably at least the 2000 election, it's become much more about turn out your folks. And I think on something the Obama campaign did very, very well was to turn out what we call sporadic voters, which are people that maybe only vote in presidential elections, but not in mid-year cycles, or certainly not in municipal races. They were very, very good at turning those people out. So you can guarantee that the Clinton campaign will be looking to do the same. And what Donald Trump's campaign is going to count on is all these same people who voted for him remembering to show up in November and do the same. And I don't know if we can count on that, because remember, these are Republicans that are very, very untested, if they're Republicans at all. These are people who are coming out just for him. We'll see if they show up.
60 seconds left. Here's the last thing. I want to bring Elizabeth Warren into this. I'll stick with you, Franco. Short answer on this. Ted Cruz sends out a tweet on Facebook and Twitter, sacrifices he's making on behalf of his supporters. Elizabeth Warren writes back, quote unquote, "Are you kidding me?" Franco, what's her game? Because people still aren't convinced that she's going to go quietly.
What's her game? I'm not sure. I actually didn't see the exchange, but I would just say don't mess with Elizabeth Warren. She's a rising star, not only as a Democrat, but in this country. And Ted Cruz doesn't have the juice that he thought he did, so I would stay out of it.
You think she's angling for something come convention?
She might be. There's actually a decent short list of vice presidential candidates, from Tom Perez to Julian Castro. So we'll see. What
do you think, D.C.? Should anybody be concerned about Elizabeth Warren? Because she just won't go away.
I don't think at this point, and I don't think you're going to have two women on the ticket. And that was an email that Ted Cruz sent out to his supporters, so it wasn't just a random tweet and didn't have anything to do with Elizabeth Warren. So she was definitely inserting herself into the process.
Do you think that anybody should be concerned that Elizabeth Warren's going to sneak in anywhere and get her influence in there, D.C.?
I mean, she's a politician, and she wants to keep her name out there and fresh, and she's going to continue to do it. So I think we'll hear more from her definitely at the convention.
She won't stop talking. John Kasich won't quit. Ted Cruz won't quit. Bernie Sanders won't quit. Come on, kids. We got a long way to go when everybody says it's all said and done. Franco Ripple, D.C. McAllister, thanks so much for joining us, both of you. Now, America whines about other countries that can't seem to hold orderly elections. New York proves yet again we're maybe the worst there is in the free world at holding them. We'll get down to the numbers with Craig Shirley next on The Hardline.